Hey guys, we're back with another video. And from the last video, I had gone back to Paris for about a week and a half in the middle of our Interrail trip. And I decided to film some stuff that I just saw day to day. There was always new things, so I was always pulling out my camera and taking video footage anyway. But I figured, living in Paris has been such a unique experience in general that it was hard not to, pull out my camera and think of different things to show you guys. Because living in Paris is an adventure within itself. Living in Paris is not for everyone. I think like New York City, a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with it, and I understand why. There's a lot going on all the time. It is definitely one of the cities that never sleeps. But for me, for 1 year, I think it was the perfect amount of time that I can still look back on my memories of it and still romanticize the city, still love the city, and still have very, very fond memories of living there and adventuring around. I did not even plan on coming to this location, but when you're walking around the city, you just happen upon all these amazing historical sites and places that you've seen in movies, places that you've seen in shows, things that you've seen photos of before and never realized that you were about to stumble upon it. If you pull out Google Maps and you're walking around in most of the districts or the arrondissements, you're gonna find something interesting, or someone famous lived there or did something interesting there. And so that was one of the many things that I really loved and found very special about living in Paris. There's this feeling of you never know what you're going to walk into, you never know what you're going to find, and it makes you want to stay out in the city and do and see as much as you possibly can. I think that's part of the mystery and the lure behind why there's so much art and why there's so much music and people that just are drawn towards Paris. Summer in Paris is also a unique experience because although the city never sleeps and you will see events and things happening all year round, the city really does come alive in the summertime. In some ways it also slows down with the heat, but I think a lot of tourists, tourists come there all year round, but there's definitely a lot of tourists in the summertime. And this was one of the cutest things that I sort of stumbled upon was these little sailboats that they have in some of the bigger fountains around the city, and kids can rent these little sailboats. You can pick which country you want to sail the little flag to, and they also have little boat races all the time in the summertime, and it was just very cute to see. Another thing that was quite an adjustment as someone coming from North America was Europeans are not the biggest on air conditioning. So experiencing my first European summer with no air conditioning, just fans, open windows, that was definitely a bit of a culture shock and just a different experience altogether. So if you're coming to Paris or you're coming to Europe for the summertime and you're not used to that, just be aware that very few places have air conditioning. And if they do, it's definitely not to the temperatures that I was used to in North America. But still a fun experience nonetheless. Something I will never quite get over is the architecture in Paris, the amount of detail that goes into most of the buildings, whether they're historical or not, is just something that I wasn't quite used to, and I found quite wonderful. It seemed like no matter what corner I turned around in the city, of course, because the city is so old, it comes with that charm, it comes with that culture, it comes with that history. And, whether it's little shops you go into, little cafes, it didn't matter how small, how big, the charm of the city always seemed to be there. And it was something I can't quite describe unless you've seen it or experienced it yourself. There's also nothing quite like a Paris sunset. It may not be the place you'd expect to have an incredible sunset, but when you're on some of the rooftops in the city, you get to see the city in a whole new light. And the sunsets were some of my favorite times and experiences out and about in the city. Something I don't think is mentioned enough about living in Paris is how walkable the city actually is. Yes, it's an absolutely ginormous city, but with public transit, with the trams, with the metro, you're able to get around very quickly, and all of the districts within that are so walkable. I found myself walking more than I ever had living in any city. And it wasn't strenuous, it was just something you did. Everyone walks a lot, just like some cities, a lot of people bike a lot. In Paris, you are constantly walking. Another special thing I found about living in Paris and living in France in general was that you didn't have to go somewhere special to hang out with your friends. On a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you'd see people just having drinks with people they knew beside the Seine. And it seems that people have much more of a work-life balance in France and in Europe in general, but there was definitely an emphasis on spending time with friends and family and the people you love over going to particularly special places and spending lots of money on different experiences. When I was living in Paris, it was a particularly challenging time for me in my personal life, and I think I was working through a lot of things. But the city itself gave me something that I don't think a lot of other things or places would have. And I have absolutely amazing memories with the beautiful people I met in France, in Paris. lifelong friends that I made from those times, and memories I'll never forget. And no matter how long it's been between me going back to Paris or seeing those friends again, it just feels like a piece of my heart and a piece of home. So I'd say I have a lot of good things to say about Paris, but I'd say the best way to experience it is to see it for yourself.